Since the last few days, nearly all of Afghanistan has gone silent. And this happened as the Taliban added another feather in its cap. They ordered a total communications blackout in the country. So there was no internet, almost no mobile data. Telephone service was crippled. For the first time in its history, the country faced a nationwide communications blackout. But why did the Taliban order this shutdown? And what does it mean for everyday Afghans already struggling to survive? Hello and welcome to Connecting the Dots. I'm Unman Bhattacharya. Let's connect the dots. Afghanistan has about 43 million people, and people mostly rely on mobile internet and fiber optic cables to connect to the outside world. But Taliban being Taliban, and so its cult of banning things. In mid-September, the Taliban began restricting high-speed fiber optic internet in several provinces, which include Balkh, Badakhshan, Takhar, Kandahar, Helmand, Nangarhar among them. Officials in Balkh say the measure was to prevent vice or immorality. Then gradually, more networks were disconnected. Telephone services, which often run over the same internet lines, also stopped working. By the 29th of September, watchdogs like NetBlocks reported a total internet blackout. Connectivity fell to less than 1% of normal levels. Some networks were cut in phases. First in certain provinces, then extended to Kabul and the rest of the country. When the shutdown hit, flights were cancelled. Banks shut down operations. People could not call emergency services, and many felt trapped and isolated. Kabul-based Tolo News reported disruptions in radio and television transmissions.
Kabul's internet connection has been down. It's a challenge for people since all the government sectors, universities, schools use the internet. We urge the government to reconnect the internet. It's very hard for people when there is no internet connection. It's hard for people to live without it.
Nowadays, everyone is connected with technology. The entire communication is down across the country. We have no communication with our friends and relatives.
Now, what motives drive the shutdown? To understand the motives, we must look at the Taliban's governing style and ideology and their recent patterns of restriction. First comes their concept of morality and control over content. The Taliban repeatedly cite immorality, vice, or evil content as reasons to restrict the internet. They have signaled they wish to ban or filter what they consider pornographic, anti-Islamic, or corrupting material. Cutting high-speed connections is their way of limiting access to modern platforms, streaming, and social media. But morality is not the only motive. Total or near-total shutdowns are a powerful tool to suppress protest, independent journalism, and opposition voices. Rights groups say the regime is trying to disconnect Afghans from the world to reduce scrutiny and resistance. In such a blackout, critical stories, leaks, or organizing via social media is nearly impossible. This way, the Taliban believe they can tighten their control over the population. Another motto behind the shutdown can be centralizing power and reducing regional autonomy. Some analysts see tensions between the Taliban's Kandahar leadership and more moderate officials in Kabul in all of this too. The shutdown may reflect a push from the hardline leadership to re-establish control. One of the most prominent patterns of Taliban remains targeting women and marginalized voices. For many women and girls, especially since the Taliban banned them from attending high school, the internet was one of the few remaining lifelines for education, information, and connection. By cutting internet access, the regime further silences those already marginalized.
At first, I was running two regular online classes, which became a strong platform for both learning and personal growth, practically for students who cannot attend physical schools and universities. Unfortunately, most of our students are now in Afghanistan and not have reliable internet access, so our classes are temporarily banned.
Now, the Taliban is citing technical issues behind the shutdown. They claim that old and damaged fiber optic cables needed replacement and that the shutdown is not a deliberate ban. But this does not explain why cables in many regions suddenly failed in a coordinated fashion, nor why the regime did not restore services more quickly. So the explanation is hard to believe. Whatever reason the Taliban may give, the blackout has immediate and far-reaching consequences across Afghan society. It has disrupted daily life and communication. People cannot reach relatives abroad or even within the country. Phones stop working, messaging apps become useless. Many say they feel blinded. At Kabul airport, flights were cancelled or delayed because air traffic control and communications systems failed. Banks use internet systems. With networks down, many can't withdraw cash or process deals. Cross-border payments and remittances, which are a lifeline for many Afghans, are blocked. Then comes the impact on humanitarian and rescue operations. This blackout comes just weeks after a magnitude 6 earthquake struck eastern Afghanistan, killing over 2,200 people. Aid agencies rely on the internet to coordinate, share real-time maps and data. The loss of connectivity hinders search, relief, logistics and communication with victims. One of the most important consequences is on education, especially for girls. After banning girls from attending school beyond the age of 12, the only outlet left was online classes. With a blackout, those hopes are completely shut down. And perhaps that is exactly what the Taliban want.
And if there's not education, I think that there would not be any identity. As we know that the identity of everyone is based on their understandings and based on their knowledge. But if there is no education, it means that, as we know, that woman is the half of the society, and it means that we are silencing the society.
The impact on the economy and livelihoods is enormous. Many Afghans run small online businesses, sell handicrafts, or do freelance work. For them, the internet is their marketplace. There are also content creators who use platforms like YouTube to earn income. These are now cut off.
Yes, I think the economic impact of network shutdowns is massive, especially in this day and age, because what we see right now is it's in around millions of dollars each day. And this is not only for the large companies, but also for individuals. So, for example, a lot of people, due to unemployment in Afghanistan, a lot of young people are using the internet to offer their services as freelancers to different clients around the world.
The country's economy was already fragile. According to the Global Poverty Index, nearly 2/3 of the population is living in poverty. An estimated 28 million people face hunger and the immediate need for humanitarian assistance for survival. The World Bank's April 2025 report says that nearly 1 in 4 young Afghans is unemployed. So what's the Taliban government doing to solve the problem? Cutting off the internet. Analysts warn the shutdown may deepen poverty and joblessness.
People who operate, small businesses, home-based, where they connect with customers through the internet, or if they're offering services like ride-hailing, or if they're offering services like food delivery, etc. So it has a wide-ranging economic impact, and I think it's a pretty self-destructive policy on part of the Taliban, because the economic consequences for the regime will be very, very horrendous.
There is another concern. Without communication, misinformation and rumors can spread unchecked, and this could be really problematic. Human rights groups in the UN have urged the Taliban to restore services, warning the blackout inflicts significant harm on the Afghan people. Now the question is, can the forced blackout last? And what are the long-term risks? Some cable systems may be repaired or alternatives installed, but rebuilding full connectivity under tight control is costly and slow. The Taliban may try to shift towards filtered, state-controlled systems that allow only approved content. But practically speaking, the Taliban's technical capacity is limited. Filtering or content moderation at scale is not easy. So in cutting off Afghanistan from the digital world, the Taliban have done more than disable phones and internet cables. They have disrupted lives, commerce, education, relief efforts, and voices that seek freedom. The motive is not simply technical, it is ideological. They want to control what people see, say, and share. The consequences are severe for those who are already vulnerable, especially women. Only time will tell whether this silence becomes permanent or whether Afghanistan reclaims its digital voice. A chip clash is playing out between the United States and Taiwan. US wants Taiwan to relocate 50% of its semiconductor production capacity to American soil, but Taiwan has firmly rejected this idea. So why did the US raise this demand, and why did Taiwan say no? Let's connect the dots. US made this proposal in the context of its ongoing tariff negotiations with Taiwan. The Trump administration, led by Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, had floated the idea. A recent interview by Lutnick sparked alarm among the Taiwanese. There he said that America was producing only 2% of the chips that it needs, and that his goal was to raise that figure to at least 40% over his time in office by convincing Taipei and all the companies in its chip supply chain that they need to set up facilities in America so it can protect them. This is his exact quote from the interview. The thing about Taiwan is they make like 95% of chips that we put in our phones, we put in our cars. They make 95% of our chips but are made 9,000 miles away. That doesn't sound good. And by the way, it's 80 miles from mainland China. And the Chinese have said we are gonna take Taiwan, like they're not even shy about it. So this is an issue, and my objective and this administration's objective is to get chip manufacturing significantly onshore in the US. We need to make our own chips. If you can't make your own chips, how can you defend yourself? It's clear from this that the United States floated this idea as it wants to reduce its heavy dependence on Taiwan for chips, and it wants to boost its own domestic chip manufacturing. For the US, it is a chips for protection deal in the scenario of a Chinese attack on Taiwan. Remember, China claims Taiwan as part of its territory, even though it has never controlled it and has even vowed to annex it by force if necessary. And under Taiwanese domestic law, called Taiwan Relations Act 1979, the US is obligated to assist Taiwan in maintaining its capacity to defend itself, though the US has a policy of strategic ambiguity. This means the US purposefully does not specify whether its forces would intervene militarily. This helps US maintain flexibility while deterring Chinese aggression. But Taiwan needs US defense support, and the US does help Taiwan defend itself by providing advanced weapons, military training, and diplomatic support. So what's happening in the US-Taiwan trade negotiations? Like with other countries and territories, the US is playing hardball with Taiwan too in its tariff negotiations, and this proposal was put forth by the US during those talks. The United States has imposed 20% tariff on Taiwanese exports. It has also threatened 100% tariffs on semiconductors not manufactured in the US. The United States has been using this threat and Taiwan's defense as leverage in its trade talks with Taipei. Taiwan, on its part, is struggling to finalize a tariff deal with the US. From the Taiwanese side, its Vice Premier Cheng Li-chun was leading the negotiations. She said, and I quote, "I want to clarify that this is the US's idea. Our negotiation team has never made a 50-50 commitment to a chip split. Please be rest assured that we did not discuss this issue this time, and we will not agree to such a condition." Even the opposition in Taiwan was furious at the US demand. Su Yu-chen, a legislator of the opposition party Kuomintang or KMT, blasted the US demand as an outright plunder instead of cooperation. She made this statement: "If the US forces a division of TSMC's most advanced production capacity, the effectiveness of the silicon shield will be weakened and Taiwan's strategic security leverage will be completely lost. Taiwan needs allies, but not ones who care only about their own security while disregarding Taiwan's survival." So what is Taiwan's silicon shield? It is the strategic concept that Taiwan's dominance in advanced semiconductor manufacturing acts as a protective barrier against military aggression, most notably from China. The idea hinges on Taiwan's crucial position as the world's primary producer of cutting-edge microchips, which are essential for everything from consumer electronics to military hardware. Taiwan produces roughly 60% of the world's semiconductors and 90% of the most advanced chips. The industry leader is Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, or TSMC. TSMC commands a substantial portion of the global market. It manufactures advanced semiconductor chips used in everything from smartphones and cars to military technology. Now, TSMC supplies the vast majority of the world's advanced semiconductors to major clients like AI chip designer NVIDIA and Apple. The silicon shield means that any disruption of Taiwan's chip supply, such as through war, would trigger catastrophic consequences for global supply chains, technology infrastructure, and economies, including those of China and the United States. This interdependence serves as a deterrent. China refrains from military action that would threaten the global semiconductor supply, while the United States and its allies are motivated to protect Taiwan's security for the same reason. So what is Taiwan doing to avoid higher US tariffs? Taipei has pledged to increase investment in the United States, buy more of its energy, and increase its own defense spending to more than 3% of its GDP. In the past too, American officials had repeatedly lobbied TSMC to establish manufacturing capacity on American soil. American officials had then stressed on the national security risks of relying on foreign, especially Taiwan-based chip supplies, particularly in the context of US-China competition. So back in 2020, TSMC responded to US demands and unveiled a groundbreaking $12 billion investment to build advanced chip-making facilities in Phoenix, despite industry and public concerns. Earlier this year, TSMC drastically increased its total investment to $165 billion with additional plans. But the United States continues to be eager to counter supply chain vulnerabilities. Such weaknesses were exposed during recent global disruptions like the COVID-19 pandemic and the US-China trade war. Taipei's outright refusal means that Taiwan is determined to maintain control over its critical high-tech industry, and for that, it won't hesitate to resist external pressures. Experts say Taiwan and TSMC owe its success in chip making partly to the high concentration of industry players, from silicon wafer suppliers to equipment makers and service providers. This has contributed to a complete supply chain ecosystem that functions efficiently, a trait required in the manufacturing of semiconductors. Now listen to this Japanese roboticist.
Taiwan is quickly growing, and Taiwan has a lot of powers for the semiconductors, right? So without the Taiwan technologies, we cannot develop the AI and the robots, especially for the robots, right? So Taiwan semiconductor technology is quite important.
Analysts say that while the US push for reshoring is understandable from a national security standpoint, forcing a 50-50 split abruptly might cause more harm than good. It may risk supply shortages and escalate tensions. What's needed is increased collaboration on research and development, joint ventures, and incremental capacity expansion within both Taiwan and the US, rather than drastic moves. Such cooperation could balance the strategic needs of both nations while maintaining industry stability. So to sum it up, it's a high-stakes battle for global semiconductor supply chain, with issues of sovereignty, technological leadership, and economic security at play. Taiwan's staunch refusal signals a delicate dance ahead as the two global tech giants navigate the fine line between cooperation and sovereignty. The world is watching closely. Where this battle ends could redefine the future of global technology. That's all in this edition of Connecting the Dots. We'll see you next week with more raging issues. Until then, it's a goodbye from all of us in the Delhi newsroom. This is Munmun Bhattacharya signing off. Take care and stay safe.